Major weather script for SkyAlert USA date, December 13, 2024. Catastrophic flooding dominates Pacific Northwest. Historic weather event unfolds. Opening statement. Good day, everyone, and welcome to SkyAlert USA today. December 13, 2024. We're tracking one of the most significant weather events to impact North America in recent history. The Pacific Northwest is experiencing catastrophic flooding that has prompted emergency declarations, massive evacuations, and record-breaking river levels across Washington state and British Columbia, Canada. Meanwhile, bitter Arctic air continues to grip the Midwest and East Coast, bringing dangerous wind chills and winter weather alerts across multiple states. Breaking Pacific Northwest catastrophic flooding. The atmospheric river phenomenon. Western Washington and the Pacific Northwest are in the midst of a historic flooding disaster, triggered by an extremely powerful atmospheric river, one of the strongest and longest lasting in the region's recorded history. This weather system, which meteorologists have classified as a Category 5 atmospheric river on the intensity scale, began impacting the region on December 8 and has dumped unprecedented amounts of rainfall across the area. The atmospheric river originated approximately 7,000 miles away, near the Philippines, an unusually distant source that contributed to its exceptional moisture content. Over the past week, the Pacific Northwest has received truly staggering rainfall totals, with some areas recording more than 10 inches of rain. Seattle itself was hit with 12 to 16 inches of rain in just 72 hours, a deluge that has overwhelmed rivers, saturated soils, and triggered widespread flooding and mudslides. Record-breaking river levels. Multiple rivers across Washington state have shattered previous flood records. The Snohomish River broke its all-time flood record on December 11th, surpassing marks that had stood for decades. The Skagit River near Mount Vernon crested at a record-breaking 47 feet in the mountain town of Concrete, far exceeding the 32-foot threshold for major flooding. Near Mount Vernon itself, the river reached unprecedented levels in the early hours of Friday morning, putting tremendous pressure on flood control systems. The Yakima River at Easton and the Grays River near Rosberg both broke water height gauge records during this event. Weather forecasters warned that nearly every small stream and short-run river in western Washington and Oregon would reach at least minor to moderate flood stage, with many exceeding major flood stage. Massive evacuations and state of emergency. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson declared a state of emergency on December 10th and ordered the deployment of the Washington National Guard to prepare for disaster response. The situation is truly unprecedented in its scope. An estimated 100,000 people across Western Washington are within areas under evacuation orders. Skagit County alone ordered more than 75,000 people to evacuate, including everyone living within the Skagit River 100-year floodplain. This includes all residents of Burlington and significant portions of Mount Vernon. Level 3 evacuation orders, meaning leave immediately and seek higher ground, remain in effect for multiple communities including Burlington, Mount Vernon, Lacona, Edison, Conway, and Stanwood. Parts of Orting and Pierce County are also under Level 3 evacuation orders. The Lummi Nation, which includes several Native American tribes in western Washington, west of Bellingham, has declared its own state of emergency, warning that continued rainfall and flooding may result in the reservation becoming temporarily isolated until conditions improve. Rescues and infrastructure damage. The Coast Guard, National Guard, and local emergency services have conducted dozens of water rescues across the region. In Pierce County alone, approximately 25 people have been rescued from their homes since Wednesday, with that number expected to increase significantly. The Coast Guard has rescued dozens from Summers, Washington, where floodwaters reached more than 15 feet deep in the hardest-hit areas. Transportation infrastructure has been severely impacted. More than 20 highways are closed across 11 counties as of Friday morning. A nearly 50-mile stretch of U.S. Route 2, a major east-west route through the state, has been closed between 2 Index and Coles Corner due to multiple landslides covering the highway with debris. Several sections of U.S. Route 12 in Lewis County remain closed due to flooding, effectively isolating the town of Randall. State 90 near North Bend was temporarily closed due to a mudslide that covered the road with debris. Lake Sylvia State Park closed on December 9th due to safety concerns around Winoochee River flooding and a century-old dam upstream. Amtrak suspended its trains between Seattle and Vancouver due to the Skagit River's expected flood levels. Think Kent. Both property owners and the city hastily erected flood barriers as the Green River exceeded its banks adjacent to State Route 181. The flooding also closed roads in Auburn and Sumner. The Cedar River in Renton was rising rapidly toward major flood stage, threatening riverfront neighborhoods, parks, and even the Renton Airport. Warning: more atmospheric rivers approaching. The immediate threat may be subsiding slightly as the current rainfall begins to taper off. But authorities warn that the region is not out of the woods yet. More atmospheric rivers are forecast to arrive early next week, bringing additional heavy rain that could renew flood danger and complicate cleanup efforts. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a Level 2 of 4 risk for flooding rainfall across much of western Washington for Monday, with a Level 1 risk extending into western Oregon and northwestern California. Rivers that lower over the weekend could quickly surge back to dangerous levels as new rain falls. Tuesday. Another atmospheric river-fueled storm is expected to arrive and continue through Wednesday. This storm will be more widespread, with rain likely from Washington to much of Northern California. While these upcoming atmospheric rivers won't be quite as potent as this week's historic event, the saturated ground and already swollen rivers mean that even moderate rainfall could trigger rapid flooding. Governor Ferguson emphasized during a Friday news conference, "The situation is truly historic. Rivers like the Skagit River and Cedar Rivers literally experiencing historic levels of flooding. This is something that the people of the state of Washington have not faced before, this level of flooding." Canada also affected. The flooding has extended across the international border into British Columbia, Canada. The Fraser Valley region has been significantly impacted, with local states of emergency declared in several areas near the Fraser River. The persistent atmospheric river has affected communities throughout southwestern British Columbia, causing similar flooding concerns and infrastructure challenges. Arctic blast grips, Midwest and East Coast dangerous cold and wind chills. While the Pacific Northwest battles flooding, the eastern two-thirds of the United States is enduring a significant Arctic blast that has brought bone-chilling temperatures and dangerous wind chills. This Arctic air mass has pushed south from Canada, affecting regions from Minnesota down to northern Florida and east to New England. On Friday morning, December 13th, wind chills dropped below zero in Minneapolis and near zero in Chicago. In the Northeast, wind chills fell into the teens and single digits above zero, even in normally milder areas. The cold has been significant. Temperatures near freezing reached as far south as northern Florida and southern Georgia, where frost advisories were posted. The National Weather Service has warned that the coldest days for the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic are expected this weekend. In New York City, Saturday will see highs of only 34 degrees Fahrenheit, with Sunday even colder at 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chills during overnight hours may drop below zero in many areas, especially during the overnight hours, posing a high risk of frostbite for anyone spending extended time outdoors. In the northern plains and upper Midwest, conditions are even more severe. Sub-zero lows are possible in the Dakotas and Minnesota by Sunday night into Monday, with wind chills potentially reaching minus 38 degrees Fahrenheit in some locations. Winnipeg, Canada has already experienced temperatures dropping to minus 27 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chills making it feel closer to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Lake effect snow continues. The Arctic blast has also generated significant lake effect snow across the Great Lakes region. Western New York has been particularly hard hit, with some areas receiving 3.5 feet of snow over the past several days. Northern Lower Michigan has seen accumulations up to 20 inches. Winds gusting near 40 miles per hour have created whiteout conditions in the heaviest lake effect snow bands. Lake effect snow warnings continued Friday morning for Ohio, Pennsylvania, and western New York, where some areas could receive an additional 6 to 12 inches of snow. The heavy snow, combined with strong winds, has created extremely hazardous travel conditions, with numerous accidents and road closures reported. Ice storm warning Midwest facing treacherous conditions, dangerous ice accumulations expected. A new storm system moving into the plains and Midwest Friday evening into Saturday morning is bringing a particularly dangerous threat. Significant ice accumulations. An ice storm warning has been issued for Iowa, with icy alerts extending from Kansas to Minnesota. Cities including Des Moines, Iowa, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Omaha, Nebraska are all under alerts for Friday into Saturday morning. The dangerous combination of rain falling through below freezing air will create freezing rain that could glaze roads with more than half an inch of ice in some locations, creating treacherous driving conditions. The National Weather Service has strongly discouraged travel in the affected region through early Saturday. Freezing rain accumulations of this magnitude can snap power lines, bring down tree branches, and make roads essentially impassable. Power outages are likely in the hardest hit areas. Weekend and next week forecast. Saturday, December 14th, Pacific Northwest. The heaviest rain from the current atmospheric river will finally taper off, but rivers will remain dangerously high. Flood warnings remain in effect for multiple rivers. Cleanup efforts will begin, but authorities warn against returning to evacuated areas too soon. Highs in Seattle around -48 degrees Fahrenheit. Midwest. The ice storm will continue through Saturday morning across Iowa, southern Minnesota, and surrounding areas. As the system moves east, it will transition to snow across portions of the upper Midwest. Light to moderate snow is expected from South Dakota to northwest Illinois, with 4 to 6 inches likely and locally higher totals possible. Winter weather advisories are in place for Chicago, expecting 2 to 5 inches of snow that will lead to slick roadways and sidewalks by morning. The snow will spread into southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, and portions of Michigan through Saturday afternoon and evening. Bitter. Cold continues with temperatures remaining well below normal. The Arctic air will maintain its grip on the region. A clipper system will bring light snow accumulations to portions of Virginia and Maryland Saturday night. Despite daytime highs remaining above freezing, temperatures will drop below freezing overnight, and snow will stick to paved surfaces. Temperatures nationwide. Much of the United States east of the Rockies will experience temperatures -20 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. Western areas will see near normal to slightly above normal temperatures. Sunday, December 15, Pacific Northwest. River levels will slowly begin to recede, but major flooding will continue along several rivers. The threat of mudslides and landslides remains elevated due to saturated soils. Residents in previously evacuated areas should continue to wait for official clearance before returning. Partly cloudy skies with highs in the mid-40s. West. The snow and ice-producing system will move eastward. Lake-effect snow will continue downwind of the Great Lakes, particularly affecting areas east of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Additional accumulations of 3 to 6 inches possible in persistent snowbands. East Coast. Another round of light to moderate snow will affect portions of the mid-Atlantic and Northeast Sunday night into Monday. Accumulations of a coating to 3 inches possible from Pennsylvania through southern New England. The Arctic air mass will moderate slightly, but temperatures will remain below normal. New York City highs around -35 degrees Fahrenheit, Canada. Across the prairies, extremely cold conditions persist with temperatures ranging from -20 degrees Fahrenheit to -30 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chills approaching -40 degrees Fahrenheit to -45 degrees Fahrenheit in some areas. Southern Ontario and Quebec will see temperatures in the low 20s with partly cloudy skies. British Columbia coastal areas will remain cloudy with scattered rain showers. Monday, December 6, Pacific Northwest. Critical day. The next atmospheric river arrives, bringing renewed heavy rain to western Washington and Oregon. This system won't be quite as intense as the historic event from earlier in the week, but given the saturated ground and still elevated river levels, even moderate rainfall could quickly lead to renewed flooding. The Weather Prediction Center has already issued a Level 2 of 4 risk for flooding rainfall across much of western Washington. Rivers, including the Snohomish and Skagit, could surge back toward dangerous levels. Rainfall amounts of 1 to 3 inches possible, with locally higher amounts in the mountains. Midwest and East, the Arctic air mass will finally begin to moderate. Temperatures will start to creep back toward normal levels, though it will remain chilly. Partly cloudy skies across most areas with no significant precipitation expected. Mountain West. Heavy snow will develop in portions of the Cascades and northern Rockies as the atmospheric river brings moisture to higher elevations. Accumulations of 6 to 12 inches possible above 5,000 feet, with some areas potentially receiving more than a foot. Tuesday, Wednesday. December 17th to 18th Pacific Northwest. Wet weather will ease briefly on Tuesday, before another atmospheric river-fueled storm arrives late in the day and continues through Wednesday. This will be the most widespread system of next week, with rain likely from Washington all the way to Northern California. Sprue. Rainfall totals of 2 to 4 inches possible along the coast, with higher amounts in the mountains. The ongoing series of storms will continue to stress flood control systems and maintain elevated flood risks throughout western Washington and Oregon. Nationwide, much of the country will see a return to more seasonable temperatures by midweek. The persistent Arctic air mass will lift northward, allowing temperatures to moderate. However, another weather system may bring rain and snow to portions of the central United States by Wednesday. Severe weather outlook. The Storm Prediction Center is not currently forecasting any significant severe weather threats, tornadoes, damaging winds, large hail for the next 3 days across the United States. The focus remains on winter weather, flooding, and extreme cold, rather than severe convective storms, which is typical for mid-December. Aviation impacts. Flight delays and cancellations continue to affect multiple airports across the country due to the various weather systems. Seattle-International Airport has experienced significant disruptions due to the flooding situation and staff access issues. O'Hare International Airport in Chicago and Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport have both seen delays due to snow and ice. More than 20 highways remain closed across Washington state, which is affecting ground transportation and complicating travel plans. Major east-west routes through the Cascades remain blocked, with no easy detours available. Long-range outlook. Fork. Looking beyond the 3-day forecast, the Pacific Northwest can expect continued unsettled weather through the end of December. Multiple weather systems will track through the region, bringing additional rounds of rain and mountain snow. While none are currently forecast to reach the intensity of this week's historic atmospheric river, the cumulative rainfall will maintain elevated flood risks and complicate recovery efforts. The Arctic air that has dominated much of the country this week will gradually moderate, with temperatures returning to more seasonable levels by late next week. However, additional cold air intrusions are likely as we move through the remainder of December, which is typical for this time of year. The Climate Prediction Center's outlook for the remainder of December suggests wetter than average conditions for the entire northern tier of the continental United States, particularly in the Pacific Northwest and Great Lakes region. Meanwhile, drier than average conditions are expected from the Four Corners region of the Southwest to the SL Southeast and Gulf Coast. Temperature-wise, most of the United States east of the Rockies is expected to see near to above-average temperatures for late December, with below-average temperatures forecast for the eastern Carolinas through Florida and Alaska. Winter storm historical context. This December 2024 weather pattern represents a significant departure from typical early winter conditions in several ways. The atmospheric river affecting the Pacific Northwest is among the strongest ever recorded for the Puget Sound region. The combination of extreme rainfall totals, record river crests, and prolonged duration makes this a truly historic event that will likely be studied by meteorologists for years to come. The back-to-back nature of the Arctic intrusions affecting the eastern two-thirds of the country is also noteworthy. While Arctic air outbreaks are common in December, the persistence and intensity of this particular air mass, combined with significant lake effect snow, has created unusually challenging conditions across the Great Lakes and Northeast. Safety recommendations for those in flood-affected areas. Do not return to evacuated areas until officials give the all-clear. Never drive through flooded roadways. As little as 6 inches of moving water can knock you down, and 1 foot of moving water can sweep your vehicle away. Stay away from riverbanks and flood control structures. Be aware that the ground may be unstable in areas that have been flooded. Watch for debris and downed power lines. For those dealing with extreme cold, limit time outdoors when wind chills are below zero. Dress in layers and cover all exposed skin. Check on elderly neighbors and relatives. Bring pets indoors. Allow faucets to drip slightly to prevent pipes from freezing. Never use generators, grills, or other fuel-burning devices indoors for those facing ice and snow. Travel only if absolutely necessary during ice storms. If you must travel, keep an emergency kit in your vehicle, drive slowly, and increase following distances. Clear all snow and ice from your vehicle before driving. Watch for slick spots, especially on bridges and overpasses. Conclusion. The weather situation across North America remains highly active and dangerous in multiple regions. The catastrophic flooding in the Pacific Northwest represents a historic event that will have long-lasting impacts on communities, infrastructure, and lives. Meanwhile, dangerous cold continues to affect a large portion of the country, and a significant ice storm threatens the Midwest. As we move through the weekend and into next week, conditions will gradually improve in some areas, but new challenges will emerge in others. The Pacific Northwest faces additional atmospheric rivers that could renew flooding concerns. Travel will remain hazardous across multiple states due to snow, ice, and flooding. Stay tuned to SkyAlert USA for the latest updates, warnings, and forecasts. Monitor local weather officials and emergency management agencies for specific information about your area. Remember, your safety is the top priority. Take all warnings seriously and don't take unnecessary risks. This has been your comprehensive weather report for December 13th, 2024. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay alert.